worry. So
today is going to be a jam-packed show. I'm telling you guys, you're going to want to listen to this one because this is going to be a good episode. I have a feeling it's going to be one of those 45, 50-minute episodes that just has a ton of value, a ton of different topics. I want to talk about an interesting trade scenario that came up in our group. We're going to talk about the Goldin auctions polling that Jordan 10 and what Cage has to say about that, what his thoughts are. Another topic that came up was how do you know when to grade PSA versus BGS versus SGC versus HGA? Because I do believe there's a bit of a skill set there. But first, I want to start off with something. Yesterday was hands down one of my favorite days in the hobby. Okay. So Lefko, I don't know if you guys watched, Lefko's doing an interview with Lior talking about the one-of-one Steph Curry logo man. And we could talk a little bit about the substance of that interview. Was it valuable? Was it not? Whatever. But what was exciting was, there's a few hundred people on the live, and it was the interaction. It was people's interest, again, in the hobby was piqued. When just a few months ago, I felt like people were kind of a little hush-hush, a little bit more dull, doing other things. I felt yesterday that people were really excited. And like this quote came up, and it's like, I'll read it. It's really the meaning of life, as I see it, is to discover the truths about the world and then master them just enough to pass them down. So people were excited, people were hopeful, people were positive, and I think that's a big step for the hobby. And maybe Cage, I don't know if you felt that yourself, but I want to talk about the video because I felt people were buzzing. People were excited. They were talking about national. They were talking about the record sale. Lior was talking about wanting to, but promote the card at a museum. And I just felt like that excitement, that people are getting back in the hobby.
You always see the glass half full of Coke Zero, don't you? Glass is never half empty of Coke Zero. So it's funny. So I'll get to the Lior and the hobby and how it's a good day yesterday. It wasn't where I thought you were going because I also felt, I was walking a little taller yesterday. I also felt like it was a good day in the hobby yesterday because, I was in commuting to my job, and before I even got into the city, I'm on the railroad and I'm checking the Fit Family group. And one of our guys had already walked. It's like 7 a.m. I'm on the train. One of the guys I already walked 7 miles, and he showed a picture of the Apple Watch with the Lucas Tigers and Bronze, graphic, which my daughter drew, which is pretty cool in and of itself. Seeing that on like a cool Apple Watch and the whole deal, and I was kind of like, wow, how does the day get better for us from that? It's the first minute of my eyes being open. I haven't even had my first Diet Coke yet. It's only 7 a.m. Usually that comes at like 7:30, we're helping the Fit Family through their journey, where the soundtrack of people walking, and it's a family affair for us, your family. I get my daughter involved. The impulse fire. I'm walking, I'm walking on air, I'm walking on clouds, whatever saying you want to use, and I start walking to work, and I see a guy that I met a couple of nights before and saw at the Bleecker Trading event, from Flushing Breaks, and he literally flashes the phone and he's like, hey, look at this. He's like, hey, I'm listening to you guys right now, which, take a picture. We posted that yesterday. It was like, it was an awesome day, for that. And so, I mean, it's like, how do you get better? And then we were able to talk to Overtime and hear that a company like that is not just, paying passive attention, but paying attention to our space, right? A company that big with that kind of a following and with that much influence is also doing the kind of thing that Ken Goldin is pairing up with Barstool, right? So we have our own sort of successes and our own sort of great things happening, and you layer on midday there, we get to see, Overtime's involvement, with that continued stuff, and get to talk to, Overtime Sam yesterday, which was one of my favorite episodes. I mean, just a real bright kid, not only, educated, but also doing this, entrepreneurial type thing that our audience loves to hear about. And I loved to hear about. And then you put a capper on the Sunday of yesterday, the Sunday of Thursday, the cherry on the Sunday of Thursday. Lefko comes out and does this whole, interview of Lior, and you get to see this card and a little bit of the details and the story behind it. It's great storytelling there. So from beginning of day to the end, you're never going to make everyone happy, are you? There's if you monitor the chats, you have idiots like me making jokes, which is worth the price of admission for the chats anyway, guys. So should be there just for Andrew yelling at me and telling me to get off the Lucas Daggers and Bronze account if I'm gonna make jokes. But I mean, yeah, just it definitely is, because we've spent the better part of the last 4 or 5 months talking about how the hobby is in a quote unquote decline. Has it bubble burst? Where are we? And a day like yesterday is one of those. It's a paddle, right? Clear. It's one of those. It's alive. A little young Frankenstein.
It's alive and it's recovering and it's smiling and but there was one thing that didn't go well. And that was Lior's audio problems. But Cage came in with a hilarious joke. He said, I'm only hearing 51% of what you're saying, but I'm getting 100% of the value.
Yeah. Well, notice Lefko did not read that comment from the chat.
No, Lefko seems to have a few favorites from his follower account. They all have these blue things with a check mark right next to them.
Listen, I think they did a good job. Like I said, the hobby, like everything else, is going to have people who are, fans at the moment, no fans. Everybody has their allegiances. Everybody has their own, agendas as well. I will say this, just, for the, to put a bow on this topic, the success of it, the paddles, the clear, the it's alive. It's interesting where it's alive, right? Because it's not alive if you're sitting there holding a stack of Prism base cards. It's alive with big money coming in, with big interest coming in, with big money being spent, with institutional investment. If Lior said the word accredited investor one more time, I don't know what I was going to do. But that's the key, right? It's alive and well in different levels and different versions and different strata of the hobby. And that's sort of.
I'm kind of over feeling sorry for the people who are sitting on base cards because they bought them at the peak. Because the thing with these base cards, I came into the hobby officially last January, and then at shows, people were saying, this is a base craze, this is a base craze, this is a base craze. This is a year and 6 months ago. So the writing was on the wall. People knew that there was high pop in base. They knew if there was a correction in the market, that prices would go down. I'm sick of feeling bad for people who've risked their money and then didn't end up winning. That's part of market behavior. I don't think we could say that things are dying because a few hundred or thousand people have made poor investments. My buddy being one of them, who bought a Kawhi PSA 9 Prism.
What's that going for now? I may have to buy a couple.
$3.42.
No, it's more than that. I mean, you can't predict a lot of things. You can't predict injuries. Those happen, and that's just one of those things, right? Also, I mean, the Clippers were pretty close to going all the way here in a wacky year. The Clippers went pretty far. For that franchise, very far. So yeah, I mean, Kawhi was probably a good play when it was made. I know I gave Kawhi as a play, and Kawhi's still young. He's still got a lot of tread on his tires, and I wouldn't mind holding base cards in 2012 as opposed to base cards from this year. That's
Cage. We were talking about this with someone. I can't remember exactly who. Is it Sports Cards PDX? I think it's him. I think we're entering an era where guys are going to play into their 40s.
I mean, some of them are, and at a high level, right? LeBron won. He was slightly older when he won his championship than Michael Jordan was the last time he won his championship. But look at Tom Brady. Right, I mean, there's better nutrition now. People are doing, crazy stuff, from everything from hyperbaric chambers to, paying attention to their diet a little bit more, working out more. So yeah, I mean, I could see it.
And salaries are growing too, so people don't want to walk away from that money. Like, would it surprise you? Giannis is 27. Would it really surprise you the way he takes care of his body if he played till 43, 44? Would it surprise you if Steph Curry played until 43, 44?
It would definitely surprise me if Giannis played and was still in Milwaukee. Yes, I don't know if any.
That's not what I asked you.
Any person could stand that long in Milwaukee. No offense, guys.
You know what? I'm gonna have a little bit of a bone to pick with you because you're a flip flop. Giannis is Batman. Giannis is Robin. Giannis is Poison Ivy. Giannis is Batman. Giannis is Ivy. Which is it, Cage? Is Giannis the Batman of this Bucks team?
So I will say that Giannis through the injury and through the playoffs has really, he's upped his stock with me. Yes.
With you.
I don't know if that's the case with everybody else. But yeah, I'm significantly more sold on Giannis now than before, even if he doesn't win a championship.
This year.
This year, the fact
Yeah,
that
he's young, dude.
but it's not that. It's the fact that he that injury looked real bad, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that he obviously was in pain and is still in pain and got up and walked it off. I mean, you know, that is exhibit A in my maybe he is a Batman change of heart, right? Because you don't do that if you're a selfish person and you're like, oh, well, I got to go rehab my knee and I'm going to cry and I'm going to have somebody carry me. He's saying, I have to lead by example, right? I have to, I have to, I have to show these guys that I'm going to be back, that they can do it, like they can do it even if I'm not here. I'm going to be a cheerleader on the sidelines. But not only did he walk off with that pain, but he came back the next day and was there showing his team, don't worry, you get through this and I will be back for you. And they won that very next game after he was injured, like easily, going away. But I think and look what he's doing. I mean, 20 points in a quarter in a playoff game. The first time, in the finals here, especially, first time that's happened in 25 years. The last time you'd see somebody score more than 20, it was Jordan. And Jordan scored 22 in a quarter. And you put his name up there with guys like LeBron and Kobe. I think they had like 19 each in a quarter. I mean, like that's now you're in rarefied air when somebody, the sports networks who are carrying the game. I think it's ABC, right? They're putting up.
And this is still with him not being a very good shooter either. This is him still being below average free throw. And
I'm going to tell you, the free throws looked horrible. The 3-point shot, it has some room to grow, but he has shown some real center type moves. His elbow jumper, it doesn't look pretty, but it falls. And he's got some decent post moves, which, someone like me can appreciate because that was the game of basketball that I used to watch and love with Hakeem Olajuwon and Patrick Ewing and, David Robinson a little bit, even Shaq with a baby hook every now and again, post moves. And he has a nice fadeaway, nice turnaround jumper, which keeps the defense honest for when he goes the other way. And is basically like, I have a friend who doesn't watch a lot of basketball and he texted me yesterday and he's like, Giannis is long, which sounded dirty, but I let him go on.
He just figured that out.
And I said, well, what do you mean? And he's like, well, every time he starts driving, I'm like, okay, he's gonna have to finger roll this, and instead it's an emphatic slam. Like he just gets to the rim. It just looks really easy.
He could take off way before you think he can, and you think he's gonna have to do a float or something, and he gets there 100. That's why he's one of the best finishers at the rim, guys. I just don't think there's two things: don't overreact and don't be short-sighted. What I mean by don't overreact, I said from day one that of this finals, this is going to be a home court advantage type of thing. So it might seem like the Suns are better. Suns are a better team. That's going to change. That's just going to change. The Bucks play way better at home, but it's not even that. Look at the Suns team. Their core with Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, DeAndre Ayton, and we'll even throw Devin Booker in there because he is young. They're going to struggle on the road. Playing on the road in a finals atmosphere like they're going to be facing in Milwaukee, that's going to be really tough. And second thing, when there's no clear-cut best player on the team, best player on the floor, it's going to change. So I fully expect Chris Middleton or Drew Holiday might be the best player next game. Might be Giannis. But it's going to flip-flop. It's going to change. These teams are really even. I would not overreact to this 2-0. I really would not overreact. Second thing, Giannis is young, man. Giannis is going to keep getting better and better and better and better and better. I fully expect this guy to play into his 30s, maybe into his early 40s. I think Giannis' cards are so significantly undervalued compared to the character of guy that he is and how he's just going to keep improving. And physically, he's gifted. There's just no other way to put it.
I like it. So what are the other topics? So it was a good day for the hobby yesterday. We got the Bucks.
Okay.
Suns. I still say Suns at 4.
You do not. You just think that's a funny tagline.
I said it. Yeah, in yesterday's episode.
You think Suns and 4?
Suns and 4, maybe 5. But I said it before yesterday's episode. I did. I think
this is going 7 games, and I think the Bucks win.
And you think the Bucks finally change home field advantage in the 7th game? You think that every home court holds for 6 games, and then in the 7th game, the Bucks find a way to win?
Well, no, I definitely think it's going to be a home court series. Think the Suns could pull it out, but I've gone with the Bucks this whole entire postseason. So I don't know how they're going to win one on the road, but I think they can. But I don't think this is a 4 or 5 game series. No way.
Okay. All right.
Next,
Cool.
let's go quick topic.
I do.
So I got a Prism Silver PSA 10 popped Luca, but so did someone from our audience. Okay, and this is what someone offered them. Curious what you'd say. Trade. So all Luca cards, Luca Optic Hollow, PSA 10, and a Luca Silver Prism PSA 9, straight up for Luca Silver PSA 10 Prism.
I mean, it really does depend. I would say no to that, honestly.
If you're who?
I would hang on to the Silver 10.
Okay. Wow.
Okay. But I know people who would say yes to that trade, right? There are people out there who like that Optic Hollow. The Optic Hollow has significantly less pop. A lot of people think that is a better looking card. A lot of people buy into the Optic Hollow. To me, a PSA 9, I just don't do. You know what I mean? Like I'm that snob, and I said that at the Bleaker Trading event.
PSA 9 of a high-ish pop card.
Yeah, of high pop cards, right? So obviously lower.
So what Cage actually does with those higher pop cards is he gives them to Ian.
Pretty much.
I don't do PSA 9s. Here you go, Ian.
Here you go. If it comes back, if I get 10s and 9s in my collection, Ian just gets all the 9s.
Keep pulling fire, Ian, and then when you get a Zion Green Pulsar, just give it to me, please.
I'm keeping it. The Zion Green Pulsar.
It's a good relationship there.
Dude, come on.
Ian's going to be like 21 in college listening to these Lucas and Tigers and Bronze episodes and when he finally discovers the secret.
Sure. Maybe. Well, Ian, that card was sold raw, terribly centered, and has funded a lot of fun and built up your collection. So if you're listening to this in 13 years, smile, because you're still doing fine. But no, so the point of course is that I would much rather think of sometimes these trades like your fantasy league, right? Like I would always want to be the guy who's packaging up 2 mid guys for the 1 first rounder. You know what I mean? If you have a first round wide receiver or that top quarterback, right? I'll give you my 3rd round running back and my 5th round wide receiver always. So I always want to be thinking about coloring up. Now, that's not always the best scenario because sometimes you get 2 good cards, especially if like you're just looking to sell it anyway. If you're just looking to get liquid and you figure out right now that the Silver 10 is 4,500, the Silver 9's 1,000, and the Silver and the Optic Hollow is 4, and all of a sudden it's $500 more in your pocket by taking the 2 cards. Sure, take it. I just don't think that's the case. I always want to be the one that walks out with the. And
you could fractionalize too, right? Like if you need some capital and you don't want to sell your full silver, you still can hold the silver and sell the hollow and maybe get $2,500 back.
Sure, 100%, definitely one way of doing it. But not it. I would rather have the Silver 10 just because even though it's a quote unquote high pop card, that I think is a Luca card that has the potential to really snap back up when cards start to pick up again, more so than a PSA 9 of the card. And also, while an Optic Hollow is a cool card, it's got lower pop. It also has lower demand. It's the average Joe Schmo who wants to collect Luca is looking for the Prism, not the Optic or the Select.
Guys, keep feeding us that. That was one of the most fun discussions we've had in the group. Was like, hey, someone pitched me this trade. Would you guys do it? I think trade discussions are super, super fun. And this one was Luca Optic Hollow PSA 10, Luca Silver Prism PSA 9, straight up for Luca Silver Prism Silver PSA 10. Now, talk to us about that Goldin auction, Jordan, with the little bit on the back that where he pulled it from the auctions. Can we talk a little bit about that? I know it's a few days delayed, but it was a big topic.
Sure. So let's speak about it and carefully speak about it, right? So the facts as we know them are that there was a Michael Jordan PSA 10 1986 Fleer rookie in Goldin auctions getting bid up, and it was pulled. And Ken pulled it, basically said, that Goldin Auctions has a responsibility to, protect the integrity of the cards being listed, any potential buyers and the consigners and the whole 9 yards. And that with the consignor's knowledge and I think consent. I don't know exactly what word was used. With their approval, the cards being sent, I think, to to PSA to be reviewed and analyzed. Now, they did not give specifics. Right, there are some other follow-ups and hints and whatnot there. This could be many, many things. Right. Initially, everybody assumed, oh wow, it's an ugly, not a 10. Right, the boo birds come out like crazy. There was a fisheye on the back of the card. The centering wasn't exactly perfect. It's in an old slab. And people are like, that's not a 10. That's clearly not a 10. It's going to go to PSA, right? Right. It could also be an issue with the slab itself, right? There could be something on the slab, that looks like somebody was messing with it with a screwdriver, maybe. You know what I mean? There could be something, wrong with the slab itself, or something that Goldin noticed and said, all right, maybe there's an issue here. Maybe there's a problem with the integrity of the slab, or maybe somebody has faked the label or faked the card or slid in an 8 into a 10 holder or something, right? I don't know the answer, right? I was not on the phone with Ken and the consignor and or PSA or whatever it is when that was being done. If that's the case, it brings up even more questions, right? Because then I can understand why they pull the auction, but what happens when PSA gets that is an interesting thing, right? Somebody holds the card now. PSA has one of these, like guarantees of their grading, right? So if a card, gets in a slab and it's not really graded up to snuff, let's say it's really a 9 and, PSA put it in a 10 holder and Ken pulls it down for that reason, right? And the person can show that they own this card and it's, in a 10, it's worth this, but now it looks like it's a 9 and Ken's not going to sell it because it doesn't really look like a 10. It really only looks like a 9. PSA gets it back. They review it. They have this, guarantee in place, basically, that Nat has mentioned to us. He mentioned it to us on our episode, if you go back and listen. Then the thought is, in a perfect world, black and white, which things rarely are, but in a black and white world, PSA is supposed to give the holder of that card the difference in value. Like figure out what the PSA SMR is of a Jordan PSA 10, and then maybe they slab it in a 9. They reholder it and say this card's now a 9. The 10 is struck from the PSA registry.
So guys listening, so let's say they say the MSRP is $265 for a 10. They reslab it as a 9. A 9 is $20,000. They give the seller the difference of $240,000, and here's your Jordan card back.
Right.
In a 9.
They work something out. That's that.
That's important, by the way. It's an important guarantee.
Well, what's funny about it is if that's the case, right? If this is what's going on here, and that happens, if I were PSA, I would, and they really are concerned now about the integrity of the grading, and that's what the new folks are doing. I think I'd be publicizing this a little bit more because no one else has this. BGS does not have this, right? The competitors do not have this. And once you get beyond the initial, oh my goodness, let me look at my card and make sure that it really looks like a 10, it's a huge differentiator. But if you really want to, go where I'm going, it's interesting that this happened, right? It's interesting that this happened for the first time in the week after the announcement of the combination between
Can I
PSA
tell you real quick, my it's a power flex that gives the perception of playing the police, not the police. It's a power flex that gives the perception of helping the hobby. But that perception can be flipped the other way too. That's my take.
Well, explain.
So to me, I was like, this is a power move. Right now, this guy has the power to decide which cards he will and won't auction off. And he doesn't even give the option to send that card back to the seller as a 10. Now he's flagging it and handing it off to PSA. So to me, that's a power move because in the future, he could do that with just about any card. And now Goldin's cards will give off the perception of these are reviewed by us and these are true PSA 10s. These are truly graded the right way. So now they're going to sell for a premium. So it seems like it gives off the perception of doing things good for the hobby, but I think it could actually hurt people like sellers.
Okay. I mean, I get that. I was more of I'd love to ask whether or not the deal between the two companies was the first time Ken was made aware that there was the ability to do this. Because that's the only thing that would make sense to me. Has he never in an auction in all of his years had a card that was questionable? That he thought, wow, this is not really a 10. Let me send this over to PSA. Has this really the first time ever that this has happened was when the companies have come under the same umbrella?
He probably didn't feel a fiduciary responsibility to do that in the past.
If he has a fiduciary responsibility now solely because of his now relationship with PSA, then what does he do on BGS? I mean, if there's an issue with a BGS card, does he let them know about it too? I mean, I don't know. I don't know the answer. To me, I'm raising this question just because of the coincidence of timing, right? And also,
let's be clear. Also, this is a question that a lot of people are having. Most of the discussions that we have are topics and questions that happen daily that people submit, whether in DMs, one-on-one, or in our groups. So you're not the only one who's had these questions.
So I don't know what the upshot is, to be honest. I don't know if sellers now want to use Goldin more or want to use them less. I don't know. As someone who has seen a Goldin consignment contract, you send them the card, they have the ability to authenticate it. Like so if they have this issue and they want to send it to PSA, they send it to PSA. They don't have to send it back to you. So that's an interesting thing, right? So, if you're a seller out there, I guess, Andrew, what you're saying is that, as this plays out and it goes forward, buyers will realize that, maybe Goldin's stuff has passed an extra test of scrutiny, or at least that's the impression that he's giving off, right? So,
correct.
I mean,
that's the perception of it. And if I'm a seller and I have a questionable card, I'm really nervous to send it to Goldin, because what if I don't get it back? And what if they deem that the way it's been graded is incorrect, and I needed the money, and now it's caught up in this whole process, and we don't know how that process is going to play out. It's really fascinating.
It most definitely is. But I mean, listen, it's just one of those things, right? That when this deal happened, it wasn't something I was thinking about. It wasn't like, oh well, this is going to happen now. Oh well, now Ken's going to be the first monitor. He's going to be the first wing of the grading company, and he's going to start flagging cards that don't really look like 10s and have them, become 9s. And I mean, it's very interesting to say the least.
And right? I wonder who the person who I keep cutting you off, but this is a great topic. Like, I wonder if the person who submits this card matters as well in the review.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen. What's interesting about it is right now I can probably point out between eBay and the auctions that are currently going on outside of Goldin, I could probably give you 100 examples of cards that are in PSA holders that don't belong in those holders. Guess the grade can probably do 1,000.
100%.
How come this was the one that was flagged only in the Goldin auction? So I mean, it's worth questioning. I think it's worth discussing, right? Could it just be that Ken got enough calls and emails about this one card saying, hey, this thing really doesn't look right, there's something could it be as easy as what I said, which is maybe they saw something wrong with the integrity of the slab. Maybe they got some sort of factual indication that it wasn't just an undergraded card, that it looked like there was some tampering with the slab perhaps, or something like that. Yeah, sure. And I think I saw something in one of Ken's comments, where people were like, what's the story? If like something about like that there was something with the card itself, with the slab itself that gave rise to it. And if that's the case, okay. I mean, that makes it very, very simple. It makes it very, very easy. It looks like somebody might have done something to the card. And if somebody, then you got to send it on to PSA, right? You got to have them, protected. Because, I mean, flip it the other way. If that's the case, Ken doesn't want to be auctioning off a card that potentially is a fake. You know what I mean? I mean, that's not a good look either. So, every once in a while, think of the spot that that the auction house is in protecting the potential buyer, you know?
Ken did say, so there's a lot of comments.
Yeah, I read them. And that's why I think I saw that. Go ahead.
Yeah, the most important thing is someone asked, will we get an update after the review? And Ken responded, yes.
Good.
Because I do think it would be cool to see how this, like, how this plays out. It's really fascinating. It's really, really fascinating. And someone asked if PSA lowers the grade, they should give the consigners something. Not sure how to determine that, but going from a PSA 10 to a PSA 9 or lower could make a massive difference. PSA should pay a penalty to the consignor if the grade is lowered. That's what Cage talked about, the PSA guarantee. It's going to be interesting how it plays out. Should we keep going or should we table it till we get the review from Ken?
No, I mean, listen, I think that conversation has been beaten up because we just don't have enough facts on it, right? We don't know exactly, what it was that gave rise to sending it. I think one of his comments did talk about some issue with the slab itself, and if that's the case, it's easy, open and shut kind of thing.
Yep.
And we'll see what
Ken
happens.
says here, if PSA lowers the grade, the consignor is made whole. That is why we pulled it, and that is why the consignor agreed to send it to PSA.
I mean, that sounds great, but I'd be curious if PSA looks at it and says this card's fake. Do they still make the consignor of the card whole? Because then aren't you incentivizing people to fake their own cards? I'm not saying the consignor on this one did this, but aren't you incentivizing a consignor to fake their own card, put it in a slab, send it to Ken? Ken send it to PSA. You think PSA is, every time they get a fake slabbed PSA 10 Jordan, they're going to pay $250,000 to the person who forged it themselves? I mean, it's just another layer to the story, right? Yes, PSA will make them whole. They'll make them whole on a grading question, right? If PSA graded that card, the card that's in the slab, and it was really should have been an 8 and they gave it a 10, then yeah, they'll make them whole. But if it turns out that, someone bought this at a show 6 months ago from someone who cracked a slab and somehow glued a PSA 7 into a 10 case, PSA's probably not making that person whole, even though they may not be the forger. The consignor may have bought it from the paper. I mean, I do want to see how it ends, but dude, we could talk about this for 5 hours because and part of that is because we don't have all of the information and maybe never will. So, but it's definitely an interesting development to say the least.
Okay, let's go into this topic because we'll go really quick and then we'll get into our plays really quickly, okay? So I know you've only really subbed with PSA, right?
No, I subbed with BGS actually before I ever subbed with PSA. Yeah.
I don't know if you agree with this, but and the layout of the land of all these grading companies has changed. But something that's worked for me is understanding when to grade a card with a certain company. Do you agree with that? So like different companies, let me give you like kind of my history. When I came into the hobby, I was learning, who to grade for what. So, for example, what I heard was PSA cares a little bit less about centering than some other companies. So you could still get a PSA 10 if your card is slightly off center, i.e. the LeBron Topps Chrome, for example.
Okay.
Did you hear that as well?
Anybody who's telling you that is going off of anecdotal evidence of the fact that there are some Topps Chrome LeBrons that have slightly off-centered and are still in 10s. Does that make sense?
It does. It is anecdotal. It's actually through experience. Like you could go on and you could search the specific card you have. Like what I would do is, let's say I bought the Kobe rookies, right? I bought a ton of Kobe rookies. I would go and search, what are the comps for PSA 10s of that Kobe rookie? What are comps for PSA 9s? What are comps for BGS 9.5s? And what are comps for SGC graded cards? Because it was just those 3 companies last year, really.
Yep.
And I would try to compare the condition of my card to pre-grade it and understand, do I send this card to PSA? Do I send it to BGS? Or does this one look like it might be worth going? I really didn't send a lot to SGC, but some to SGC. Do you think that's the purpose of this topic was there was a person who was just sending cards, all of his cards to one grading company. And I think you're going to lose something when you do that, as opposed to these cards are better to send to PSA. These cards are better to send to BGS. These are better HGA. This is better SGC. Do you think there's an argument to that, or do you think that would be overthinking it?
I mean, I think you're going to wind up probably spending a lot of money on on probably crossing, trying to figure out all that fun stuff and where you're going. Here's what I'm going to tell people. It's pretty straightforward, right? It's pretty straightforward, right? So centering. The answer is yes, but the answer is not yes because of anecdotal evidence. The answer is these grading companies publish what it takes to be a grade. So you can go on their website. I'm glad you asked this, man, because a lot of people don't know this. You can go on their website and actually determine what the difference is, right? So how about this? If you have a card that on the back has 65-35 centering, okay, measure it, 65-35, one way or the other. You can send that and should send that, and let's just assume that's the only flaw on the card, right? No other imperfections. Back centering is 65-35. Send it to PSA. Here's why. The description on BGS's website of a BGS 9.5 Gem Mint is centering approximately 50-50 one way, 55-45 other way on the front, and 60-40 on the back. So a 65-35 back centering card is not going to be a 9.5. That card is going to get a BGS 9 because it goes as far as 70-30 on the back, right? Now, PSA's own site, and keep in mind, guys, PSA 10 does not mean it is a flawless, perfect card, which is why it's funny when like a 10 is flagged. You're like, that's not. Look at the centering on that. Look at the back of that card. You know, they'll tell you right off the bat that just for a second, if you'll allow me, 60-40 on the front is allowed for a 10, right? And 75-25 on the back. Okay? 75-20. I'll say it again. 75. So that card that's 65-35 on the back, you send it to BGS, does not meet the BGS 9.5 standards, but it does meet the PSA 10 standard. So if you're, hey, let's talk about which one to send it to, the first thing you should be doing is go right to their websites and look. They publish this stuff, guys. It's not, hey, that looks like a 10. Hey, looks like a 9. They tell you what they will. And for anybody who doesn't even want to really look this up and tunes to us for all their information, you ready for this? 4 perfectly sharp corners, sharp focus, full original gloss. Free of staining of any kind, but an allowance may be made for a slight printing imperfection, a la a fisheye. If it doesn't impair the overall appeal of the card. Hence, it's on the back. it's still a perfect card, whatever it may be, right? So that little printing imperfection.
That was PSA, right?
The image must be centered on the card with a tolerance not to exceed approximately 55-45 to 60-40% on the front and 75-25% on the reverse. That's the definition of a PSA 10 card from PSA. It's on their website, on their site, right? PSA 9, centering approximately 65-35 on the front, 90-10 on the back. You got a card that's 85-25, right? 85-25. Now it's approximate, right? And BGS says approximate, but 85-25, 7 is where that falls into BGS. Now, BGS again is approximate.
Good example of that card, just to give you guys like a card to give you, is the 2004 LeBron Topps Chrome. The centering on the back is disastrous. So it was really scary for me, for all of them, for literally most of that card. 2004 LeBron Topps Chrome. I said, I can't send that to PSA. I could come back a 7 or an 8. I sent it to BGS and I got a 9 subgrade on the centering and then 9.5 everywhere else.
So the back centering is where PSA is much more flexible. That's what I will tell you, right? Because they'll accept 90-10 on the back for anything up to a 9, 70-25 on the back for anything up to a 10. Whereas PSA, 90-10 gets you a 7, right? 80-20, an 80-20 centering can get you as high as a BGS 8.5, right? Still get you PSA 9, 80-20. So it's an interesting thing, right? So that's just the centering, right? So how about corners, right? So it's amazing. I didn't know we were doing this, but I know this because it's out there. It's public information. It's on their sites, right? So and you're 100%. So corners, it gets a little bit interesting, right? So BGS will tell you their comment on corners for a 9.5 gem mint is sharp corners to naked eye, slight imperfection under magnification. PSA simply says 4 perfectly sharp corners. Okay? Now, this doesn't really help you too much because 4 perfectly sharp corners for 10, 9 is sharp corners. You know what I mean? Whereas 9, mint to the naked eye, speck of corner wear under intense scrutiny will give you a BGS 9 for the corner subgrade. We don't have to go too far. Same thing. Edges, PSA comment is mint edges for a 10. For a 9, slightly off-white borders are okay for a 9. 9.5 on BGS, mint to the naked eye, speck of wear under intense scrutiny is acceptable for a BGS 9.5. All right, so there's your edges. Surface is the most overlooked part of reviewing a card's condition always, right? It's also the most difficult thing to see on an online scan. So when you're talking about like eBay, you name it, the surface is always the one that can catch you, right? So just so we have the commentary on that, right? For a PSA 10, PSA says for commentary on surface, it's sharp focus, full original gloss, no staining, slight printing imperfection if it doesn't impair the overall appeal of the card. Quote, I've said it twice now, right? BGS's comment for BGS Gem Mint 9.5 is extremely minor print spots are allowed under intense scrutiny. Now, intense scrutiny. Does that mean my home magnifying glass? Does it mean like a microscope? Does it mean like I don't know, the Hubble telescope? I have no idea, right?
Those white flakes are always interesting on the the Kobe Topps 138, the rookie card, right? Like it has white flakes from the camera light, but it also could get white flakes without that. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no.
So those are always an interesting surface card to inspect at home.
I mean, deep color, devoid of registration or focus imperfections, perfect gloss, devoid of scratches and metallic print lines in order to get the surface BGS 9.5 grade. So I mean, these are the things that you have to look at when you're deciding between those two where to sub. But that, I mean, the easiest one right off the bat is that centering. They give you the centering requirements, right? And you can see where one falls. You have to look at what your card is and where it falls under those descriptions, right? I mean, it's all out there, man. I mean, you type into I'm gonna look right now. You go to PSA site and you type resources grading standards, and they show you, of course, the 52 Topps Mickey Mantle, and in each one of the grades, and then you click on it and it tells you what the description is, and it's right there. Let's see, the 10 says 75-25 on the reverse, 100%.
I told you guys this was going to be a jam-packed show. If you guys need, pause this, go get yourself a water, a little diet soda, coffee, come back to it and rewind, because that was a lot. And we know that, but I told you guys it was going to be a jam-packed show. And if you're listening on YouTube, we have an amazing content guy. His name's Akash. He's been doing great work. So now we have timestamps too. So you could skip ahead, skip back. You could see it kind of broken down chapter by chapter. Let me read you guys something that Mr. Eric Spoelstra said about my play today. Just from the physical standpoint, the U.S. main team has this incredible firepower, right? A lot of 30-point scorers. Lots of guys that can facilitate and help space for those guys, Spoelstra said. But it starts with having players who are physically even capable of being on the same court. Patrick is quite a physical specimen, extremely strong and agile. He could play either the wing position or play that versatile 4 position. I think he's set up in the future to be a great two-way basketball player, to be able to defend virtually everybody on the court, whatever your scheme is. And then offensively, his game has really grown. You could tell he's extremely dedicated to have that kind of improvement. My play today is Mr. Patrick Williams, and Conrad's going to love this because this has been Conrad's sleeper of the draft from basically day one. He's talked about this guy, how strong, how athletic he is, how young he is, how much potential he has. I think it's really interesting what you're going to see with his cards. PSA 9 of the gold shimmer, of the gold, of the black gold. Cage, those PSA 9s have all sold for $4,000, $5,000, $7,000 of this guy. Yet his base and his red are still in very, very affordable ranges. So you could get his red PSA 9, which is jersey match, but he's wearing the white Chicago Bulls jersey, so not really a jersey match. That was like a $200 card. But my play today is actually pretty simple. and it's a way to color up without grading cards. I think there's going to be a rush for Patrick Williams cards when he starts playing well. I would just buy him raw right now. I would wait till National and I would scoop his cards for right now on eBay. They're $20. Can you get 9 for $100, 8 for $100 at National when you're buying cash? I bet you could get 10 for $100, and you're going to be able to inspect them too. So my way of coloring up is buying these cards for $10, $15. If you could get them off eBay, that's great. Stocking up on them. And then I do expect him to have a breakout season next year, especially breakout season relative to what he had this year because his stats weren't that good. He's been playing with the USA team. He's going to improve. He's working on his game. He's physically strong, and he's still a young guy. And you buy these cards for $10, $15. And when he does have a breakout season, you're able to sell all of your base raw without grading them and maybe color up. Maybe turn that investment of $100, $200 into a blue or a red or a few reds in the season. So my play is that. My play is just buy the base right now. They're $20 on eBay. You can probably get them for 15, 10, depending on who the seller is. Highly recommend this guy. Take a look at his stuff. Conrad's been talking about him. He's practicing with the USA Olympic team. Spoelstra's come out and spoken highly of him. This is someone you're going to want to look at. And guys, I'll tell you, the big wigs, the guys that really could move the markets, and they're on Twitter. Follow them. Some of them own card companies. I'll give you a little hint like that. Wink, wink, nod, nod. They start to buy NBA way sooner than we used to. Off-season buying now starts when the finals are still going on. So I wouldn't be surprised if you're going to start seeing NBA prices start to perk back up, even as the NBA season isn't officially over.
I like the play. I mean, Kamran and I have talked about Patrick Williams. I mean, that Bulls team is great. They got some really good role players on there. I mean, Zach LaVine, he was a play of mine before the season. I said he was going to be an all-star. Told you guys how he's working on the game. You know how much I love Kobe White. Patrick Williams is a nice ad with those guys. I mean, that team is one of the ones that's on the upswing. They're going to be playing some meaningful games. I like the play. All right, so guys.
Oh, no. Cage sent me an email.
Don't open it yet. Well, you can open it and get ready. All right, I sent it to you on purpose because you could help. Because I'm going to reward our YouTube people. I'm going to reward the people who are watching this and listening to this the entire time. And hopefully you're able to get on these. We started this episode. I was saying to Andrew, I'm like, Andrew, I found this card. Like, I just think this is one of the coolest cards that I've seen in a while, and it checks so many boxes. And it's available to people who like football, who like basketball, who like baseball. There are, more recent ones. There are named players. The only thing it doesn't hit is, like modern guys because they haven't done it modern, and you'll understand why in a second. But I think this play is a killer. I think this is just one of those fun plays that has the shot to be like, wow, I didn't even know about those, and it becomes one of those like hot things. So I'm glad you've listened to us for 45 minutes, and I can share this one with you. I don't own any of these, and I said to Andrew this is the kind of play like it's one of those few rare ones where I'm like, I don't want to give this because I want to buy literally every single one of these I can, but I'm not going to do that. I want to give you guys a chance to buy these things, and I don't own any. So I'll tell you that now. You guys, if you buy these, will be buying them before me. But I'm really excited about a play. It's been a while since I was actually this excited about a play, and it's not a specific card. It's a type of card. So, Andrew, stained glass cards from Prism are like huge. They're like all the rage. People love these stained glass. They're kind of like put in the same category as like Kaboom. Somebody was holding a Patrick Mahomes stained glass and like, I'll pay $10,000 for that card. They're just crazy. They're really cool looking cards because they're kind of like acetate. You can see through them. They got all the colors in the world, and people go nuts for them because this is like, it's a Prism thing, right? Everybody loves colors. Everybody loves shiny. Everybody loves, short prints. I think I have a stained glass Michael Thomas at PSA forever, just waiting for it to come back. It's just a cool looking card. It's just one of those, like the color bursts, like the kabooms, like, these short printed cards that people will chase. But I love that stained glass. And there are people who really love the stained glass look, the type of card. So because it checks the box of the narrative people are throwing out there, that cards as art, right? I want to get cards that are like art pieces. I want to get cards that have an aesthetic to them. I want to get cards that look good, right? And I can't give Panini credit for the stained glass concept, right? I mean, there are stained glass minis that come out of rip cards in Allen and Ginter, But before that, you go back, I think 97 might have been the first time it did this, but there's a set that Topps made called Topps Gallery. Right? It's Topps Gallery. And in that Topps Gallery, they have a card called Topps Gallery of Heroes. All right. And you can pull one of those two links that I emailed you up if you like now. But they're in basketball, they're in football. I think the 97 one was football. I don't think they did it in basketball until like 1999, maybe. But there's a Gary Payton from 99. Look at that. That's a die cut, right? It's just a really cool looking, cool, colorful, stained glass card. Topps Gallery, Gary Payton. They're called Gallery of Heroes. Right? So the 99 class has them. So that means, Vince Carter is in that set. Kevin Garnett is in that set. Your boy Kobe is in that set, right? So there are some really sick Gallery of Hero cards. They also, for basketball, they have it in 2000 as well. I sent you a link of a 2000. It might have been a Garnett that I sent you just to compare the card. Oh, that's Iverson. Yeah, a cool little Iverson card, right? Look at the color on that. Look how the color pops on that. It's just like it's a die
really
cut.
Nice card.
Really
and
it's
nice card.
Gallery of Heroes. It almost looks like the Marvel Heroes, like the Heroes card on it and the whole deal. But I'm looking at these and I say, the pop is low for high grade, but there's just not a lot of them at all. But the fun part is that you can buy these, especially baseball ones. You want to buy a Jeter, a Cal Ripken, they're like $4, $5, $10. There are a bunch of PSA slabbed, 8s, 9s, $40, $50 all best offer. A lot of raw ones. Peyton Manning, Randy Moss, Emmitt Smith on the football ones. You want to go back to 97, you still have John Elway, Dan Marino. Some of the GOATs, quarterbacks are in the original set. If you want something more modern, even though it's more modern, has a throwback feel. In 2013, Topps did a throwback to these. And there's a Jackie Robinson, a Yogi Berra, there's a Roberto Clemente. There's some really cool ones in the 2013 set. Take a look at it. You can buy them relatively cheap raw. I imagine the raw ones, if you take a look, they're going to have some whitening on the back. They kind of have like a black acetate border and the black kind of chips off. So, don't buy the $4 or $5 one thinking you're going to be able to send it to PSA and get a PSA 10. I mean, I guess it's possible because these aren't cards that a lot of people graded. But take a look, even in the eBay scans, you can see on most of these raw ones that there's some white on it. There's a Kobe right there, 100%.
This is a Kobe 10.
Yep.
Cage, believe it or not, it's $1,000.
Yep.
1,200. So that's interesting because you're absolutely right. It's a beautiful card. One of the best design cards I've seen. It's one of those cards that you stop scrolling Instagram. And I feel like, was it Yaniv? Was it Yaniv, our buddy?
Yes.
Yaniv, who?
He had a stained glass card.
So if you guys don't know, give this guy a follow. I don't know his Instagram off the top of my head, but I know he writes and does content for Boardroom. He has his own blog.
It's like Yaniv.son.
Yes. Okay. But it's an Instagram stop your scroll. You're like, wow, that's a beautiful card.
And this is the same type of thing. You buy this card, you hold it up to the sun, you hold it up to the light, and then the light shines through, which is really cool. It's like an acetate type of card. And, some of the Hall of Famers, some of the GOATs, depending on what sport you like, they have these cards. You want Emmitt Smith, you want Peyton Manning, they have the cards for them. And, if you're just looking for a card that's aesthetically pleasing for not breaking the bank, you're going to be hard pressed. I mean, you can't buy a stained glass cheap. Doesn't matter who it is. And you're definitely not buying a Peyton Manning stained glass for cheap. But you can buy Peyton Manning. Look, they're here, $24 or best offer. So it might not be a 10, most likely not a 10. But at this point, you're buying this card because I think it looks cool. And no one else in what we do is going to give you this play. And, part of me says that can mean that I'm wrong. But I think the other part of me means, I think what it means is that Luka Nation is going to be first on these.
I think so too.
So take a look. If you like it, pick one up.
I think the same thing with my BAM play. So I posted the video clip of BAM, and you could see it hasn't got a ton of engagement. And honestly, sometimes that's how I think I'm right more than it's like it's your first to the punch. So I like that. I like that a lot. Today, guys, I told you it would be a jam-packed episode. We talked a little bit about the Goldin Jordan PSA 10 and that whole scenario, and we'll catch up with you when there is a verdict. We did the whole trade thing, optic hollow PSA 10 and a silver 9 versus a silver PSA 10. Send us more of those kind of fun trade things. We'll discuss them because that's super fun. We talked a little bit about grading standards for BGS, PSA, and we gave two plays: the Gallery of Heroes, Topps Gallery of Heroes, and Patrick Williams. And we talked a little bit about, for what I'm excited about is, and this is maybe a quote that sums this up, the past is a source of knowledge and the future is a source of hope. I felt that yesterday, just the whole day, as Cage outlined at the beginning of the episode, starting with someone stopping Cage in the middle of the street, like, hey, I just met you at Bleecker. I'm listening to your podcast. I love what you do. People sending us photos of their smartwatch, listen to the podcast, our special partners and people that we're working with. And then to sum up, that huge purchase by Lior and only alt of the logo man, one of one Steph Curry. I just feel, and national, I feel like there's the buzz that's starting around national. I felt the community was hopeful, excited, and positive, and I wanted to share that with you guys here today.
Can I say something about national? Kind of throw this one out there really quick. We'll put it in the groups, but if you're listening to this, I'd love to do like a pre-show for the national, like the week before or something like that has a combination of two things. So I'm looking for two ideas here from Luca Nation. One, if you've been there a bunch of times, give us some ideas, give us some suggestions. I mean, besides the whole wear comfortable shoes, which, I'll be there in a suit and tie, so the comfortable shoes are out. I'm just kidding. But I'd love to have some, hey, here's some ideas, here's some this, here's some, that. That would be great. And I think that there are other first-timers going to the National who would appreciate that, and we can bring those hints that we get from you guys, to the audience who might be going. And then number two, this might be more important, if you're going, you're on the fence about going, you name it, how can we get you off the fence and get you there? And then how can we meet you? And how do you guys want that to go? Because Andrew and I are both going to be there. We've now confirmed we're both going. We're going to be there. We want to meet as many folks from Luca Nation as we can. Let's figure that out. I got a suggestion yesterday about going to one of the nearby casinos and hanging out in the sports book and doing a meet and greet kind of thing there. I mean, give us some ideas, some suggestions, some thoughts, and we'll make it work. We'd love to hear from you guys.
Sportsbook is going to be empty. August. No one. Well, what sports are there? Just Shohei Ohtani just smashing dingers.
We're all going to be betting on highlight.
Well, at least we have Formula One, because I don't know what we do without it.
I mean, Formula One is going to lead the card market out of darkness. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I'll give you guys a little preview. Watch out for Djokovic. Djokovic is going to do a rare feat this year, possibly Grand Slam, where he's going to win all 4 tournaments. He's won Australian Open, French Open. He's in the semis of the Wimbledon, and then you have the U.S. Open. That hasn't been done in years, and that's a big feat. So Djokovic is someone whose cards I'm looking at. It's just hard. I was looking at his cards. It was like Ace was the brand for his rookie card, and I'm like, do I really want to buy an Ace card? Does that hold value? So maybe something we'll discuss tomorrow. Actually, tomorrow, Cage, is this confirmed? We're going to release the Spud Webb interview that we did.
Sounds good to me.
And then Sunday, we're going to do a coffee with Cage.
Works. No problem.
Yes, man. All right, Luca Nation. This was one of my favorite episodes. We talked about a ton of topics. Love you guys. Have an amazing weekend. We have a special series of shows coming up for you this weekend.